Hello everybody, it is me, Fighting Shroom. Long time no see. I've been a little lazy recently, but maybe I can do a little more in the following days. I'm doing right now a quick video to explain my alternative fighting system that I made for my own jam, the Bakin event jam episode 1, I think I called it. I'm not too sure. I will link it down in the description, and also this battle system will be available on my itch page. You can just import the events, and those events have notes in them. We will see them very soon, and you can make a new project or just import them in an existing project and just use it if you want to. It's pretty simple, but it's different. Sometimes different is simply better than the default stuff, which is fine, but you know, sometimes you wanna spice stuff up. I just jump right into it and show you what it's all about. So it's just an auto battle. I'm not doing anything. So what? So my characters have an HP bar, obviously, and an SP bar. The SP bar fills up every time you attack. You get +1, and if it's full, you're gonna unleash your special attack. Now you see I have not only one character, but I have different characters. And I can switch between them. Let's just have a look how it works. You're using the other character, but that's not all. You can just switch characters mid-battle. You can have a little strategy, maybe make some complex stuff, combos and stuff. And every character has his own stats, of course. Those are using the database stats. Yeah. Let's have a look what the elf does. This was the right button. I use default Action 1, Action 2 and Action 3 buttons for the character swap. And I see I'm using a bow. Oh, this doesn't look too good. Oh, she dead. Yeah, the one thing that is a little shitty what I need to figure out is how to manage dying casts, because right now the game only recognizes the first cast is dead, so I now have the dead symbol for whatever reason, even though my HP is higher than 0. I mean, it's not perfect, and I did not have as much time to finish it up. Maybe you can do it yourself. It's not too hard, I think. You just need to check, is HP 0 or below, or the variable that manages the HP, and then you kind of have to figure out how you want to swap between the casts. If that's the case. I was a little lazy maybe, but it is what it is, okay? So that's it. But enough for the showcase. Let's jump right into the events if you are curious to see how it works. Most of the system is based on a cast event. So right now I have the slime. Let's just go into the slime event. It starts off with a passive state. It really does nothing. It's just the basic stance of the enemy. And we have a dead state, which will be activated once the enemy HP is 0 or below. And here you can see one of my notes. Okay, this one is important, because this manages whatever happens once you come in contact with the enemy. So it's a setup for the battle, as you can see in my neat little comments. As you can see, I'm gonna turn on battle, make a little sound effect. You don't need the sound effect, it just sounds good for me. And then I'm gonna add a layout. I'm gonna use the camera I made for the battle. It's just a little zoomed in and more from the side than from above. Above. Yeah. And yeah, my character changes the stance in a more kind of battle-y stance to make it look more good. And then we're gonna initiate the stats of the enemy. So the way I do it, there is a command called obtain cast status. What I'm doing is I have two arrays built in. One is for the player stats, which means for the active cast that is right now on the field, and one for the enemy stats. Quick explanation: an array, you can basically have player stats 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 until I mean it should be something like 99. So you can store 100 values in an array. It's nice to, if you want to give properties to something, in this case an enemy. And here's a little legend to let you know what is what. So the value 0 is not assigned, 1 is max HP, 2 is it's not, it's HP, it's HP, I'm gonna change this right now, it's the HP. 2 is attack, 3 is defense, 4 is agility, 5 is magic power, but this enemy does nothing with magic attack, so there is none. Same goes for the cast. Now we are using the array player stats, which should make sense. The difference is we need to check which cast is active when the battle starts. So if it's our main hero, the red hat guy, you can see that the hero, as it's called by default, max HP will be assigned to player stats 1. And we will work with those array values for the damage calculation and anything else in the future. So yeah, here I'm grabbing the attack power, defense power, agility. I see a little something that I forgot to do. Now you can see how to easily add one of those things. Because I forgot to assign magic power here for those two at least, because they use it. Yeah, there is an event for changing casts, and on those I have the magic power already. It's just I forgot to add it. Good. Now the stats are assigned. There's a little defense calculation. This is not necessary, but I left it in just so you see how it's done. And yeah, because the defense calculation also happens during the attack, so this is redundant. I should delete it, but I won't now. And part of the setup is just to position the cast right. When you saw it, I touch the slime and both casts go kind of separate a little bit to make it more, to make it look good. And yeah, it's just the setup of this, then the battle, BGM plays, and the switches are turned on, which is important. Setup done is on, so this one will be turned off. ATB calculation is on, so the attack bar will be, excuse me, will be calculated now. Yeah, and cast change in battle is also on. It's the switch that allows you to change the cast, so only during the ATB calculation you can change the cast, because during an attack would be not good, not optimal. It could cause problems. So let's just jump into the ATB calculation now, because that's the next logical step. Again with a neat comment. The ATB is based on agility. So you can see you have a player ATB and an enemy ATB value. And you add your agility to those values. And this event checks, this runs in repeat, if your ATB value reached 1000. And also for the enemy, and which one reaches 1000. God, why is it so hard to talk right now? Basically, the first one to reach 1000 will get a turn. This does not mean that both values go back to 0 once the attack is done. You will continue from the last value. So you can basically leap the enemy. So you can go twice before the enemy moves. That's what I wanted to tell you. Let's just assume your character is faster than the enemy, then ATB calculation will be turned off, this event. Player turn on. And cast change in battle off, so you can't change your cast anymore once the attack happens. Yeah, player turn on. This can either be this one, or this one. Let's say you don't use your special attack because your SP is not high enough. Player turn is on, cast active. Let's say your main character is out and about, so it will be 1. This is just your attack, so you walk to the enemy and give him a good old slasheroo, because he has a sword, and changing the animation to the sword slash. And you can see now yeah. Okay. The enemy defense calculation wasn't redundant here. I'm just dumb. That's about it. Because it remains the same during the battle. Only you can change, so never mind. Not so important. Let's go back to this one. So, the attack is basically this. Your attack minus enemy stats. Yeah. And by enemy stats I mean defense. I don't know, my concentration goes down a little bit right now. So that's the slash, and now I'm grabbing the enemy position on screen for X and Y, and little fine adjustment for the Y to make it not at the center of the enemy but a little above it. And now this is just the damage number. When you hit the enemy, it shows a damage number. And it returns, you go back to your place after the attack, you go back into your battle stance, the damage number goes away because you don't want to have it on the screen all the time. Yeah, that's just I'm not too sure if I need this event, but it's there. It's just to synchronize the... Wait a minute. Yeah, the HP of the enemy. And this is important. It's a normal attack, so it's gonna refill one of your SP. And it's SP1 because it's cast 1. The variables are called like... It's cast 1 has SP1. It's kinda... You try to make it easy to understand. So, now it checks if the enemy is dead. And if the enemy is dead, a lot of stuff happens. Dead is turned on and Battle Aftermath is turned on. But let's assume he's not dead. So player ATB is 0 again. So after you attack, your ATB has a reset, which makes sense. ATB calculations turned on again because we are now in the phase where ATB does stuff. And you can change your cast again, and your turn is over, so it's player turn off. So you go back to the ATB calculation. Your enemy will probably have the next turn, and it will do basically the same. It's basically the same. The only difference is because you can have more than 3 casts. You can make how much you want, but in my example you have 3 casts and you need to check which one is out so that the defense values can be assigned correctly. Yeah, that's the only difference really. And yeah, the enemy hits, the enemy goes back, and that's that. Let's have a look if your player gets a turn and he has, in this case, 3 or more SP. He can only have 3. You can set it up however you want, but 3 feels good for me, so it's not too boring. It's the same as the attack, but a little bit different. It's like a stronger sword slash, so I multiply the damage by 2. Other than that, it's the same. It's important to assign 0 to SP again, so that you don't spam the skill over and over again. For my second cast, I have a little healing ability, which it's just recovering HP by... This is why magical power is important to assign, because it uses magical power for the healing amount. Yeah, it's the same. And the third one is the mage. He does a fireball, which does damage based on magic power. Yeah, so those are the attacks. Let's go back to your attack. Let's assume you did kill the enemy. And yeah, so this one, Battle Aftermath, will be turned on. Also this and that. I mean, this is kind of important, so your ATB starts at 0 at the next battle. Of course, the player turn is turned off, enemy is dead on, so it's not on the map anymore. Yeah. So, what happens once this is on is victory. This event plays. First of all, your player shouldn't be able to move during that, or it will look jank. Enemy dying effect. A little wait, BGM will stop to play, and it's a little sound for the victory. There is a win motion for the basic Bakin sprite, so I use that, and then text pops up. You can do all sorts of things. It's funny because I actually implemented the XP, so they could level up, but I think it doesn't work like this. You have to make a custom leveling up thing, I think. Yeah, so you have to return stuff that you changed during the encounter sheet, like normalize the camera, enable character operation again, battle off, battle aftermath off, and that's about it. It seems complicated, but really there is not much to it. It's just the player attacks, player special attacks, enemy attack, ATB calculation, startup, and dead. I hope this wasn't too confusing. And that's like 90% of the whole system. Let's have a look at the common events. Don't mind the talking sounds one. Just a little experiment. So you have a startup event. It's just to say, okay, when the game starts, your active cast is cast 1. It's important to assign stats right from the beginning. But you can do a lot with, like every game should have a startup event. Yeah. Then next important thing is assigning the buttons. So the action key 1 is cast 1. Action 2 is cast 2 and action 3 is cast 3. Self-explanatory. If you don't know how to assign buttons, you can see it here. It's pretty easy. So you basically say you assign with an advanced variable box the button to a variable, and if the variable changes based what you do with the button. It can be 1, it can be 2, and I think even more, but for this instance 1 and 2 is, I use 1 and 2 I think. Let's have a look. So this is just the setup for the buttons. This event is for changing the cast outside of the battle. It checks if the cast 1 is equal to 1. Cast 1 is the variable that gets changed when you press the action 1 button. And battle off, so we can distinguish between are you in battle or not. It's as simple as that. And what happens? Assign 1 to cast active, of course, because it's the first cast that you now use. I made a little sound if you change the cast, and all the stats need to be applied. It's the same as the encounter thing. And of course, what's happening on the map should be changed as well, so you change the cast graphic. The second page is the same, just it checks if cast 2 is 1, so if you press action 2, and then 2 will be assigned to cast active because you use cast number 2, which is the elf. But you still need those. It's a little hacky, but this is how it should be. Then you apply the stats. Same goes for the third one, the mage. It's the same and self-explanatory. Same goes for the cast change in battle. Yeah, it does basically the same, but in order to work, cast change in battle must be turned on. So it's when the ATB calculation stuff happened. Yeah, it does exactly the same with a little ATB, a little defense calculation at the end because it's relevant. Okay, this is when I do it, apparently. Maybe it's redundant what I did, I'm not too sure. Yeah, but it's again stat assigning. Yeah, pretty self-explanatory for every caster page. Yeah, and that's about it. I hope it's not too complicated. If you have questions, feel free to ask me. on Discord or in the comments below. So yeah, that's my entry for my own jam. There are not a lot of people that participated, but maybe I will make videos if stuff gets submitted. It was just a little idea of mine to make a jam that does not produce games, rather than event systems that anyone could use. So I had some rules which some people didn't like. Only use basic assets. I mean, I understand. But I wanted to make it most accessible for everyone. So in this instance, I did only use the bare minimum which Bakin has implemented, which are built into Bakin, like the assets. Yeah. So it's about making events. Just a little thing: if you never imported events or exported, you have, oh, you don't see that good. So in the right upper corner of your event, you have import and export. If you go to import, you can choose the txt file of the event to import an event. This is a good way to save your events if you make very complicated stuff and just want to save it somewhere in case you need it for another project, for example. If you want to export, you just hit export and it will be saved as a txt file. Yeah, that's pretty cool that you can do that. Yeah, that's about it for this video. I hope I did not talk too much nonsense, and we will see if people like it. Until next time. Ciao.